Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons and a concept that I am interested in, which is ID&D. Small I, capital D, capital N, capital D, ID&D, which I believe is an emerging thing, okay? And so let's talk about the current conversation. So basically, I've been saying for about 4 or 5 years now that Dungeons & Dragons is incredibly important in the history of humanity, and frankly is the best, most powerful tool, secular tool that's ever been created to help humanity, right? And that Dungeons & Dragons specifically is this unique bridge to help humans interact with identity, narrative, and language in ways that no other humans interact with those three elements, which are super important because we have moved past all physical labor now is trivial. The only work that matters today, in my humble opinion, is being done on the knowledge worker side, right? And then basically, all physical labor is low valued, is very kind of low valued labor. It's low value work that is done with the extra money that can be made from knowledge work, right? And so, in this knowledge workers world, the value of identity, narrative, and language has gone up tremendously, 100-fold, right? And it's really all that matters now. And Dungeons & Dragons allows a particular type of human. A human is charismatic, confident, and highly charismatic, highly confident, and highly intelligent. Dungeons & Dragons serves as a catapult to catapult them farther, right? What's interesting is how things are changing with Dungeons & Dragons, and I think we're moving into ID&D territory. All right. So first of all, I'm going to point you to the link is below. Could not believe this was said. Notepad Anonymous has a site where he reviews mostly non-D&D games, and in the link below, you'll literally hear him say this. He says, he's asking these questions. Why? Why do tabletop role-playing games matter so much to me? And he says, because this hobby is the only thing left that makes me genuinely happy, right? And so Notepad Anonymous is saying tabletop role-playing games are the most important thing to me, and they're the only thing that make me genuinely happy now. That is an incredible statement to make publicly. That is an outstanding, incredible statement to make publicly. To say that life is suck, and all that makes me happy is playing tabletop role-playing games, right? Now, the father of all role-playing games is Dungeons & Dragons, right? And so this person is attaching their identity to tabletop role-playing games. But increasingly, I think the new conversation is not people saying Dungeons & Dragons is my identity, right? Dungeons & Dragons is a massive, critical, crucial anchor point within my identity. And I'm saying that. I'm saying that now, right? Dungeons & Dragons is part of my identity. It's not a product. It's not a brand to me. It's an element of my identity, okay? Now, actually, that's not new. That's really not new. We've been having that conversation for a while. That's 10, 20 years old at least. And the reality is, outside of Dungeons & Dragons, this conversation is over. There are literally tens of millions of Americans, maybe over 100 million Americans who attach to their identity a sports team. It's a major thing, right? People buy seasons tickets. They have, they structure entire, months of their lives around getting together with friends. The food they eat changes. Sports are so strong, they actually drive a lot of local businesses. The pizza parlor my favorite pizza parlor is kept in business every year by football season. They have double, triple, quadruple their orders during that season, right? And so massive amount of Americans attach their identity to sports, right? Many Americans attach their identity to cars. Many Americans attach their identity to sneakers. Many Americans have attached their identity. The most famous life brand of all is the Harley Davidson, right? You buy a Harley, it gets you friends, it gets you status, it gets you looks, it might even get you a paramour, right? The amount of you spend dollars on it, and it gives you a dividend in 15 different ways through your life. That is absolutely astounding. That is incredible, right? And here's what's changed for D&D, right? D&D is increasingly a part of people's identity. What has changed in the conversation is people like myself and others saying we refuse to apologize for this anymore. We refuse to make excuses, and we refuse to be ashamed of this. And there are a whole bunch of people, and they'll show up in the comments, right? They'll take about 5 minutes for somebody in the comments to say this is silly, right? But I think what's really changed with D&D with your identity attached, right? And this is the issue, right? Is you can play Dungeons & Dragons and cut a goblin in half and have a meaningless beer and pretzel game, and it's not going to be anything. Or you could say, I play Dungeons & Dragons, I buy dozens of books for it, I read thousands of pages of content for it, I have a huge miniatures collection, I have a room dedicated to it. This is a significant part. This is an anchor point within my identity. It is part of my identity. And I think the part that's changing on Dungeons & Dragons is just like me, I think there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe low millions of people who are like, this is part of my identity, and I absolutely refuse to apologize for it for 1 minute more. I'm not going to make excuses, and I'm not going to be ashamed of it, right? And what we're saying is, hey, I see your Harley, I see your two-wheeled identity element. Dungeons & Dragons is bigger and better, right? And the reality is, while there's been hundreds of motorcycle clubs, each Dungeons & Dragons table has a far better chance of actually improving your life than any motorcycle ever did. Doesn't matter who made it, right? So I think that's what's happening. I think ID&D is emerging. Identity Dungeons & Dragons is emerging. And I think there are hundreds of thousands, perhaps low millions of people just like myself who are saying flat out publicly, Dungeons & Dragons is part of my identity. I refuse to be ashamed of it. I refuse to make excuses for it, and I will never again apologize for it. And that's the new conversation, in my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic, please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.